So I got this question a surprising amount. Hi, Cyzor. How do you explain to people the difference between transgender and transracial when people use feeling a different race to justify their argument against transgender people? Let's talk about it. If someone brings up transracial as an argument, just send them this video. The first thing to understand is that both gender and race are social constructs. They don't exist outside of society's agreement that they exist. Same thing as money. Money is a social construct. The metal in here is real copper and zinc, but the value that we give it, currency, is purely socially constructed. And a social construct's ability to change is purely based on what society agrees that social construct is. Some social constructs are very personal and change from person to person, like religion, for example. You start off with whatever religion you were born into, if you were born into a religion at all. But because society agrees that religion is personal to each individual, you have the freedom to change your religion to whatever you want it to be, whatever feels closer to what you identify as. Gender works like that. Your gender gets assigned to you by your doctor when you're born. They look at you, and based on what you look like, they'll say girl or boy. If you look female, they will call you a girl. If you look male, they will call you a boy. They don't test your gametes, they don't test your chromosomes unless there's a very apparent need to. That's why there are intersex people who are also thrown under girl or boy. And what a girl or boy is, what a man or woman is decided by society. And it's not something society agrees on, which is why you have people saying men do this, women do this, but then you have other people going, I'm a woman and I don't do that, or I'm a man and I don't do that. The reason why it's so difficult to define what a woman is because there's no definition of woman that includes every woman that's ever existed and no men that have ever existed, with no exceptions. Any way you try to describe it, there's a woman that exists that does not fit that description, unless your description is just people who identify as women. Transgender is what happens when the doctor assigns you a gender based on your sex, but then you yourself do not identify as that gender. It works very similarly to if you were assigned Christian when you were born, and then you grow up and become a Buddhist. Except fewer people lose their mind about it. It's just how you personally identify. That's the transgender side. Let's talk about transracial. Now, the same way there are constructs that are very personal and change from individual to individual, there's also constructs that are very communal and don't. It's more rigid. It's still subject to change, but when it changes on a societal level. The law or money, those are examples of more communal social constructs. There has to be some semblance of agreement amongst people for a law to change or be added or taken away. Everyone in the society has to be on board on the value of your currency for you to actually be able to spend it anywhere. And you can't say my penny has the value of $100. You also can't say my penny identifies as a pound or a ruble or yen, because your communal society has agreed on the value of a penny. And other societies have also agreed on the value of a penny. So that's not a personal social construct. You don't get to decide or change that on an individual level because the community has to agree on it. Race is closer to that kind of construct. Race, as we know it in America anyway, started being a thing in the 1600s. English leaders and businessmen and whatnot had indentured servants that were working for them. And they treated them terribly, absolutely garbage treatment, basically as close to being slaves as possible. It's just that they had the promise that they would get out of it eventually. People who didn't like this system ended up resisting it, resulting in a bunch of bloody conflicts. I'm talking English, Native American, African, etc. Obviously, the wealthy elite didn't like that, and anyone who was an indentured servant could eventually get free and gain enough wealth to do that again. They had to come up with a way to keep the indentured servants on their side and keep everyone else down. Introducing race. We're taking away the rights of everyone who is not white. So even though it sucks that you're an indentured servant, you're still doing better than the black people are. White privilege is born. But if we're going to have this concept of race, society's got to be on board with what race means, what it is, how we determine who's in what race. So an entire ideology started getting formed around this concept of race. There were several things on this list on how you determine someone's race. This included phenotypical features like your skin color or your hair texture, the shape of your nose. It also included the idea that your race is inherited. You are the race of the people who birthed you. A lot of the aspects of that racial ideology have been removed or changed as society has advanced, such as the idea that a person can only be born into one race. We know that's not true. But there are aspects of this ideology that have never changed and still permeate society to this day, such as the idea that you are the race or races that your parents are. And communal society agrees on this. So that's why you can't be transracial. Based on society's communal agreement on what race is, you cannot claim to be a race that your parents are not. I hope this helps. I'll see you in the next video.